Hi, it's Sam. In this tutorial, we're going to add on to the previous code we made to play back an audio file in Gen to create a buffer slicing effect. So the first thing we're going to do is add a parameter for how many slices we're going to slice the buffer into. Let's do a default of 8 with a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 16. And because we could pass in a floating point number for this value, let's just make sure to round it so that it is an integer. And now we need to get the size of each slice. So let's change the counter so that it's counting the number of samples in each slice. So to get that, we'll have to calculate it using the dimensions divided by the number of slices. So now we need a way to generate a random slice number, and we can do that using noise. Noise outputs a random value between -1 and 1 every sample. So we're going to take the absolute value of that, so we're just getting a value between 0 and 1. And we're going to multiply that by the number of slices. And then take the floor of that. The floor rounds the value down to the next lower integer. And this will give us a value between 0 and the number of slices -1. Maybe I'll say 2, so it doesn't look like minus. And the reason we want to do that, let's just have a simple example here. If we had a buffer size of 800 samples and 8 slices, we would want to start at 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, or 700. So that's 8 slices. And that evenly divides the buffer. 800 divided by 8 is 100. So that evenly divides the buffer. We wouldn't want to also start at 800 because then we'd basically be starting at the beginning of the file because the buffer size only goes up to the 800th sample. Let's take a look at the output of this. And you'll see that it's just sending out a number continuously, which is not going to work for our purposes because we only want it to play after the previous slice has played. So the way you can kind of time a signal is by using the latch operator. So in the left inlet, you put the input that you want to sample. In this case, that's this random slice. And the right inlet allows input through when it's non-zero. So when a non-zero value will allow the other value through. And we can use the counter. The middle inlet will send out a 1 when it's hit the maximum. So after one slice has passed, we can use that to allow the next value, the next slice to go through. And then we can use that. We need to multiply that value by the size of one slice to get where we should read from in the file. So we're just going to add that to the current count. Let's clean this up a little bit. So we're reading through the buffer. Just the size of one slice is being used for the counter. And we are getting a random slice between 0 to the number of slices -1. which we're using to offset the current position of where we're reading in the buffer. So this will give us a new slice every time the current slice has finished playing. I'm going to simplify things. Let's just get rid of the speed parameter and keep it playing back at the current speed. Because we're using negative values for the speed, that can cause problems with the counter. It'll never reach this count if there's a negative count as our maximum. Because this is going to be a positive number going into the count limit, we're never going to reach that. So let's just simplify things and leave this as the ratio between the sampling rate of the file and the sampling rate of our project. And add the slices parameter. And you'll notice you can use floating points here if you're not dragging to the left, if you're dragging to the right. So it's kind of useful to have the rounding in this case. And get rid of the speed parameter here. And then let's just try it out like this. Okay, so that's simple buffer slicing in Gen. I hope you found that useful. Please let me know if you have any questions or clarifications. Otherwise, until next time, class is dismissed.